Hello and welcome to another sound booth tutorial. I am your host, Daniel Jason Booth. Today we're going to look at processing vocals using a rather unique approach to EQ that you may not have seen before. Please like, share, subscribe if you find this video useful. All right, roll the intro. Okay, so I've got a track here which is still a work in progress. I'm just going to play a little bit of it. As an explanation, the song has the chorus part and the verse part of the lead vocal are split. Basically what we did was we recorded the lead vocal through a telephone. So it's literally a telephone EQ'd effect. But I did find that it was quite scratchy. Let's have a listen to it within the track. Now, obviously that sounds like a telephone because it is a telephone. And I kind of, in some ways, I regretted using it, but we were committed to using it in the track and kind of went with it. But, you know, I'm finding it a little bit scratchy. So I tried using all sorts of different techniques to smooth it out, and it just, nothing seemed to work. I'll show you what I did start with. So I don't know, maybe this sounds okay, but between these two plugins, it sounded better. Let's have a listen. Still finding a bit scratchy though, and I've got so many notches in there just to try and get that to sound better that I thought I'm just totally destroying it. I'm a big fan of using as little processing as I can get away with, and this seemed a little bit too much. So with the Brainworks Dyne EQ here, I'm using it just to dip out some of this harsh mid-range. It's a really good plugin. I love it. It works in a lot of cases. But I thought, why don't I try a different technique? I stumbled upon something a little while ago, which was through experimenting, kind of came across it by mistake, and that was using a delay. So I'll just dial this back to normal. So this is the mod delay 3, which is stock standard in Pro Tools. What I ended up doing was, I'm not sure how I came about the idea, but I dialed the delay value back to 0, started playing around with the feedback. Have a listen to what that does to the overall EQ of the vocal.
I don't need you there when I need you next to me. I say the words I wanna hear instead of what I mean. Ask me how I've been, I say I'm fine. Are you being? Trick my mind with lies till the truth catches up with me. I try and I try, but I never seem to succeed. Hope becomes irrelevant. Now I'm just chasing dreams.
All right, so what's going on here? Let's start with the negative side. So not all delay plugins have negative feedback. What is negative feedback? Negative feedback is basically like normal feedback, except it sends a, pardon me, it's particular to this plugin. I don't know that I've seen negative feedback on any other sort of plugin. All it's basically doing is it's like normal feedback when you bring it around, except it's feeding back a inverted version of that track back onto itself. So it's actually cancelling itself out. What I think is happening, even though we've got delay compensation, there is still the slightest delay that's still present on the track. So even when it's set to 0, it's still a really tiny delay. And what that's doing is it's feeding, if you're going this way, it's feeding the signal back onto itself, and it's kind of removing a lot of the lower frequencies first, kind of working its way up. If you're going back the other way, it's actually feeding the signal back onto itself. So if you can imagine you've got a sine wave, typically something that's harmonically rich, it's going to be similar to a sine wave, except it's going to have lots of little jagged bits on it, which is obviously the harmonic content. It's the, if you look at a guitar that's distorted, it's going to have a lot of those jagged frequencies in it because it's trying to represent a lot of different harmonics that are happening in the signal. But the overall shape of it will be representative of the fundamental frequency. So how I see this working is the feedback, it basically feeds back the signal slightly delayed back onto itself. I believe that what it's doing is it smooths some of those harmonics out, which is why I think this is a valid technique as an alternative to EQ. What I really like about it is if you do stick it on another source, especially something that has bass on it, it actually, when you go into the negative figures, you hear a drop in bass. So clearly when you go in the other direction, what that's adding is that kind of more fundamental frequency back onto itself. I quite like it at 100% feedback in this case, but I'm not 100% sold on how bassy it makes it. It obviously lifts the signal because it's adding back the signal which is feeding back onto itself. And so I'm just going to drop it down and roughly volume match it and just play with the wet dry till I get something that's a bit more pleasant.
I act like I don't care, but it gets to me. Pretend like I don't need you there when I need you next to me. I say the words I wanna hear instead of what I mean. Ask me how I've been, I say I'm fine. How you been? Trick my mind with lies till the truth catches up with me. I try and I try, but I never seem to succeed. Hope becomes irrelevant. Now I'm just chasing dreams straight from a nightmare to a reality. I've been mixing drinks and morals, holding around to solve the problem of being lonely. Mixing drinks and morals, trying to numb this pain I've caused from being lonely. I act like I'm alive, but I'm dead inside, you see. I act like I'm okay, but it's slowly killing me. I need you off my mind, you're wasting all my time.
So there's a little bit of work to do in regards to balancing that for that section where the bass comes in, but you can hear that change happening. And I think I kind of like that all of the EQ changes are happening within the plugin itself. As a means of smoothing out the harmonics in the signal, I think it's a great way of doing it. I don't know of any other way to do it. You can, of course, distort a signal and add more distortion and kind of smooth it over that way. But I've experimented with that, and in a lot of cases, it didn't work quite as well as doing this. And I'm not really a fan of kind of resorting to this style of EQing the signal because it just introduces a lot of phase shifts, and I don't feel like it's as solid. I feel like this tends to retain a lot of the phase relationships that are inherent in the original signal, and you're not processing it as much. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this and how you might use it, but my intentional use was I need to smooth out the harmonics in the signal, and seems to be doing a good job of that. And it's a cool little technique. I hope you find it useful. As I said, please like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in another video. Cheers, guys.